I mean, you probably could have taken a better shot with your fucking eyes closed. Oh my God. That's a fucking banger right there. How's it going? Hope you're having a shit one. Why don't you come on in, sit on down, because today we're gonna be roasting and editing some of the photos that you sent me. Let's get stuck into it. Ooh, that's fucking annoying me. Anyway, it's a quick fix. I just fix it up real quick because I cannot stand looking at that. Same with these ones while I'm at it. The more distractions you take out, it's like the more that you start to see. I could spend all day doing this. Yeah, you fucking thought you'd get away from me, you little cheeky cunt, eh? I like the look through. I like a good top-down shot. And I think it's just such a great way to get a different angle on a car rather than just shooting eye level or a bit lower to the ground or rolling shots or something like that. What's actually happening here is LED lights are constantly flickering when they're on. However, when you're taking pictures, and especially at a really high shutter speed, when the LED is flickering, your camera captures when it might be off. When you're on a shoot and you find this happening, there's a couple things you can do. Shoot at a higher burst rate. Just keep spamming it until you get one with both sides in. The other way is lowering your shutter speed, which may not always be ideal for the condition you're in. Put the ND, like set it to 4 or 6 stops or whatever you need. But in this example right here, this is the cheapest and easiest way to do it, and it's just painting it back in. So we open up our brush tool here in Lightroom, make a little dot, very carefully go over the light and increase our exposure. And we're gonna do the same on this side. Super minute detail, but it's the details that really make something great. Okay, now I'm gonna destroy this picture with an edit. So I like to bring my exposure down, keep the highlights where they are, boost up my mid-tone sections, bring down some shadows, and let's try a little bit of fade. Invert it so it's affecting everything except the car. A linear gradient from the top, and I'm gonna bring our exposure down a little bit so it matches the rest of our lighting evenly. I'm gonna bring a little bit more texture. Now I would like to see what it looks like if we bring a bit of dark green in the shadow. Maybe import even 5. Fuck, I do love a good dark moody shot, but that might be a bit too dark. I'm gonna drop my exposure 2 stops, bring up those highlights a bit. Select subject. I'm just gonna take some saturation because there was a bit of blue on the roof there. I'm gonna bring a radial filter from the top and increase the exposure. Maybe it doesn't even need to be like that. It could even be something like that. And a linear gradient from the top, and I'm gonna darken that there. And another linear gradient from the bottom. Darken that there. Let's try a little bit more fade. I'm a big fan of spacing. And one of the things I'm noticing here is the spacing from the front of the splitter to the fence is only this much, but that doesn't match the top part of the fence here and then to the rear wing. I would have liked to have seen both the front end and the rear end have a similar amount of spacing. I think that's just one tiny small detail that I think would have made your photo a little bit more pleasing to the eye. Before, after. A little bit dark, but I do love a dark moody edit, and I'm actually pretty happy with that. I'm currently running a photography competition in collaboration with Sigma Australia. We've got 9 prizes to win, including these Sony A7 Mark IVs, these Sigma 35mm, and these Vanguard camera bags. There's still heaps of time to enter. Entries don't close until the end of September. So if you'd like to find out how to win, I'll leave a link in my description. We've got here a 911 Carrera 4S, and you've somehow made it look like a Craigslist ad for a used refrigerator. What does it actually sell? What is that? Can we translate that? The stamp and the letter. So a shop that buys and sells stamps. Great. And you park a Porsche 911 in front of it to reflect that. I mean, the lighting here is flatter than the earth, according to a conspiracy theorist. The car's black wheels here, if I made the exposure any lower, it looks like the car's just fucking floating there. Is it a hovercraft or a UFO? Please, if you own a nice car like this, where it has a retractable wing, just leave it down. It's meant to come up for a reason at a certain speed. Don't go around the city parking it. Like, it looks wrong. The car's paint is really dark, and you've got sort of a dark, dull backdrop thanks to the lighting. And I'm not a fan of just straight white wheels. They work for like Civics, Type Rs. It doesn't suit this car. It just looks like it's trying too hard. You were trying to make it look aggressive and then you just gave up halfway and you were like, this is good enough. That's what it sort of looks like. I think what this photo is missing mainly is like aggression to show off the car. Like there's no real energy. It's just very bland. The whole point of a rolling shot is to show off the car on the street, like its street presence. It just looks like regular traffic on the way to a Monday morning commute. I want you to watch any ad from an everyday sort of car. Car ads from like Kia, Toyota, Hyundai. And I'm not talking about watching ads from expensive cars, because we know expensive cars are always going to look great. And when you dissect those ads, when you watch them and you watch how they do their rolling shots, they always manage to show off the street presence, the wow factor that the car has. Next time you see that and you see a rolling shot that you really like, take a screen grab and dissect it. What's the environment? What road are they on? Where are they? How does that reflect the car? Why does this shot look good? Try all those things next time and then send me a shot. This photo is awesome. Okay, I love a Liberty Walk GDR. To be honest, I'm not a huge fan of wraps, but I think this graffiti wrap with everything going on, it's chaos, right? And it works. There are two things here that I think would have made your photo 100 times better. One of those things is shot portrait. And I get it. Hey, look, we live in modern times now. Instagram, Reels, you gotta shoot portrait. I get it, but it's a fucking Liberty Walk GDR, not a selfie. Shoot landscape. What do you care about more? Do you care more about Instagram likes or taking a great picture? We have just the most brutal amount of negative space at the bottom and top of the photo, and that really takes away from what's happening here. The other thing to complement that is shooting a bit lower. I'm assuming you were taking this picture maybe from a 4-wheel drive, because that's why it looks so high up. I guess your camera car is your camera car. You take what you can get, right? But having a lower shot closer to the ground really gets that essence of speed and aggression. It comes from a filmmaking trick, is when you have the camera and it looks down onto the subject, it makes the subject look inferior. Whether it's if you do it the other way, where your camera is low and it looks up, for example, you have Batman standing there, which way you're gonna shoot him? You're gonna shoot him from a low angle or you're gonna shoot him from a high angle? You wanna make Batman look inferior and insecure and scared? Or do you wanna make him look tough and aggressive and like someone you don't want to fuck with? That's pretty much the same as what's going on here. So next time, where you can, especially for cars that are super aggressive like this, a lower shot, landscape will really sell it. I actually kind of like the warmer tones that are going on with the car. A bit more yellows and oranges into our shadows, midtones and highlights, all of the above. Obviously this is way too pungent now. It looks like someone threw up. So I'm going to reduce some of my yellows and a bit of the oranges, give them more of a muted look. Time to bring some shadows in, really get that night, like grungy look to it. Might actually take some contrast out and I'll bring some shadows up, something like that. Okay, I'm gonna bring a hint of aqua in. So we're gonna play a bit more into the purples, which will help bring our reds. And then we tie it all together with our yellows to give it that orange glow. Let me turn this light off for a sec. Things fucking getting serious over here. I need to concentrate, okay? And I can't do that with a massive fucking light in my eyes. I'm gonna boost my vibrancy a bit of clarity, take some texture out. Select subject, invert subject, so we're getting everything that's not the subject, and get it off the wall as well. So I just want it affecting the road. Exposure down, clarity up, hit auto mask as well, and see if Lightroom can do a better job of just getting all the white highlight parts. And it's doing a fucking terrible job. Increase some saturation. I wonder if there is a bit of detail left in there, hey, but that looks a bit weird. Let's go over our taillights here. Let's try a radial filter now over the whole car. We'll invert it, bring some exposure down. So we're getting really dark and moody now, but we're not gonna be affecting the car. And now we're gonna get another mask, which is gonna affect our car. And I'm gonna bring some saturation up. Maybe we can add just a hint of warmth, a little bit of exposure on the right side of the picture here. Oh, hang on. Let me get this back on. Oh, now that I've got my final picture, I'm very interested to see what happens if we generate this into a landscape picture. So let's just go like a 16 by 10. Gonna click generate, and that looks kind of shit. And then generative fill, let's do the other side, see what happens. Oh, that would be, I don't know what this tunnel looks like, and the colors are pretty fucked, but you get the idea. If this was landscape, now imagine if we shot it a bit lower. That's a fucking banger right there. First off, let me say that this photo is awesome in creativity. The concept of having these samurai stormtroopers, what even is that? I'm not a big enough nerd to know what the fuck that figurine is. You've made this photo really come to life, even though you're shooting something that's inanimate, which is impressive because that's not an easy thing to do. Having the sparkler actually simulating a sword fight with the sparks flying off, it's like genuinely very creative. But I think the photo could have been sold a lot better if you didn't have your hand in the frame. If you could have angled it a different way, maybe just a bit more time could have been spent on how you actually positioned this, it would have made for an even better photo. I also think if we just reset it here, I think it's a little bit too dark. I think if you had some sort of background, it would have sold the picture a bit more. I don't want to say make it more believable, but just make the picture a bit more immersive. But I do think you're onto something here with this sort of stuff, so keep up the great work. Successfully avoided the roast. We've got this beautiful Carrera GT, and the photo is incredibly sharp, but I don't know, it just feels a bit meh. You've got one of the most iconic Porsches ever made. I feel like the photo just doesn't really reflect that. And you've shot directly into the sun and blown out your highlights here. What's with the dry bushes over here? Doesn't really add anything to the photo. It just sort of looks like the car's been abandoned in a desert parking lot. Probably waiting for someone who actually knows how to photograph the car. Oh my God. There's a lot going on here, and I have a lot of questions. Who modifies a car like this, first of all? I'll never understand it. It looks shit. Why is the door open? Why is it parked outside in and out? And why is it parked in a handicap spot? This is what's happening here. I figured it out. The car itself is handicapped. So where are you gonna park it? I mean, I'm surprised you could even drive anywhere to begin with, considering the fitment and how low this thing is. It makes sense. It's undrivable. You've ruined a perfectly good car, so where do you park it? And you know what's really interesting about this picture? If we look closely, see this lady here, she's not actually walking, right? It might look like she's walking into in and out. She is escaping. Because, I mean, I would feel embarrassed even just being a bystander, accidentally being caught in this picture. You're like an accessory to the murder here. That's what's happening. I particularly like how the headlights really stand out, giving our subject, the truck, a really big presence in the photo as well. Like nothing's really lost. But I really don't think this photo needs all that much done to it, to be honest. Just a bit of a dehaze and maybe a crop in. This is exactly why you buy a truck, to do shit like this. I always love when people actually buy something and use it and do cool shit like this. That's what it's all about. Again, it kind of works as a portrait, but I'm a big fan of landscapes. And it's also better for just viewing on YouTube. We could really play into that sun glow here. If I get a radial filter, bring up some shadows, increase our warmth. Could do the same on this side too. Drop the exposure a little bit. We could even bring another linear gradient from the bottom here and drop the exposure a bit more to create even a bit more focus onto the car. I feel like our linear gradient on this side could even be a bit more warmer and saturated, because I feel like there's more orange glow on this side than that side. Just make the whole fucking picture orange. Chuck a little bit of purple in there so you get a bit more of that darker orange, which I really like. There's like a very specific orange that really works. So we make sure, let's bring a bit of highlights down so we're not blowing anything out on that side. Actually, that might be our initial radial filter. Just bring some highlights down. What happens if we bring a little bit of a green tint? Oh, that's disgusting, never mind. I think that's really all we need. Before, after. Before, after. If you like watching these kind of videos, I make them every month. So if you feel like sending me one of your raw shots, you can send it to this email address here. Help us out by hitting subscribe or give us a like, because it really does help me out. Right, what do we have here? This looks like some modern day photography. Some bullshit TikTok trend that someone would have seen and tried to copy. I mean, it kind of does look like it has the lighting of an interrogation room from like a crime drama. But the twist of this episode is that the photographer has brain damage. I mean, what we've got here is just a smear of shadows and highlights. It's like you asked your camera to have a nervous breakdown. That's what I'm seeing here. I mean, I feel a little bit dizzy looking at this picture. If your goal was to disorientate the fuck out of me, fantastic, great work. If I'm really honest, I do kind of like the picture. It's different. I will give you that. If you guys didn't know, this is a Nissan. Just in case you didn't figure that out from this picture, this right here is a Nissan Patrol. I can almost hear the thought process of this picture. Oh bro, I've got a sick idea. We're gonna park my Patrol outside the Nissan dealership. Never been done before, brother. Never fucking been done before. Oh yeah, bro, that's such a sick idea. You've got a four-wheel drive here, a car that's meant to be going along sand dunes, tearing up a mountain, but instead of shooting it there, what have you done? Park it back at the fucking dealership. What's next? You're gonna park it at the fucking bank where you got a loan for it? Fucking photograph it outside. Cars on grass. Don't do it, no matter how bad. It's like an addiction, I swear to God, for some people. It's not good for your health. It's not good for your photography career. Don't park cars that have no business being on grass. Don't put them there. It doesn't make any sense. But you've got a beautiful vintage Porsche here. It's not a fucking lawn ornament. It belongs on the road. Yeah, let me park my Porsche next to this shit heap building and make sure you get my Fujitsu air conditioning unit in. That'll really sell the picture. I also see that you're from Romania. Now I'm even more upset, okay? Romania has some of the most beautiful, windy, hairpin roads in existence. Why couldn't you have shot it there? I mean, I don't know like the whole geography of Romania or where you're from or how close you might be to that whole mountain chain, but it just upsets me even more that this is the best thing you could do in your country. This is the best location you could figure out when you have so many other options. I think that's what upsets me the most here. I really like this picture. I think the model and the choice of car, the way it's been shot, the lens choice, 35mm Sigma. It just works. Everything here just works. A soft sunlight glow on her face. A very nice warmth feeling you get when you look at this. So I'm gonna try and bring that out a bit in the edit. Let's start with the eyes. A little bit of highlight just over the pupils here. We're gonna get a radial filter from the right side of our photo and increase our temperature, a bit of saturation. Not a huge fan of these bright greens, so I'll bring a little bit of saturation out and a little bit of luminance. Slight fade in the tone curve. And I wouldn't mind actually getting the left side of my photo here a little bit brighter as well, or it could be darker. We'll get a radial filter through the center of our picture, increase the exposure, get some shadows going. We don't wanna mess too much with the skin tone here. I'm gonna go into the blue channel of our tone curve and bring it down a bit, give it more of that orange glow. Might bring a bit of luminance up. Linear gradient on that side doesn't really work for our shot. No, that's so much better. I don't know why I put that there. Bring some clarity out, give that really soft glow to it. But we can go over our model with a bit of a brush tool and just keep a bit of texture in our details. We don't want her skin going like greeny yellow. So I'm gonna bring some purples in and a little bit of saturation. Add a little bit of contrast in. Could even drop the exposure a little bit. I honestly somehow don't mind the blown out highlights, but we can mute them a little bit. I just like to go around the wheel, just like this, and just see what's sort of working. Don't mind that little bit of a purple undertone actually. I feel like some indie films have this really strange green color grade to them. I think we're gonna play into that here. Something like that. One more for our highlights, which is gonna affect our sky. They can be a bit more yellow. Or a bit of grain could actually work super well for this picture. A little bit more roughness. Just subtle enough for it to make sense. One more radial filter over the whole image, which will be inverted. And then I'm going to subtract the radial filter away from the sky. And I'm gonna decrease our exposure just to create a really subtle vignette around our picture. I think a little bit more warmth. There's our before and after. I might have gone a little bit too hard in the saturation, but it works. I am not really much of a portrait shooter. I don't shoot a lot of portraits. I don't edit a lot of portraits. So I'm really happy with that. But if I have to dish it out, I also have to cop it. So feel free to rate my portrait edit. You've got a BMW here, supposedly the ultimate driving machine, and shot it in a way where it looks ashamed to be in your photo. There's no life to this image. There's nothing that represents what the car really is. There's no speed, there's no power, there's no aggression. I mean, you probably could have taken a better shot with your fucking eyes closed, to be honest. I don't know why, but this picture just makes me laugh. It just looks so awkward. What am I looking at here? I don't know if it's the way that the tree is or the skew of the lens, but it just looks so stupid. It's like you tried to take a nice, peaceful picture, but what it looks like instead is one of those shitty paintings above your bed on like a $30 motel room. I actually shot this GTR a while ago. I was hunting for this Koenigsegg just driving around in Germany. It was in the Nürburgring. I think it was in a Gira R, just cruising around. And I was trying so hard to find it and photograph it. And I had the opportunity and I missed it. And this GTR rocks up with some of his mates as well, and I ended up getting some really cool shots. So Skyline Suki on Instagram, go check him out. Really clean car. That is a terrible picture. Okay, right there. But it almost looks like it says Toyota. It's a bit messy. There's a lot going on here. It just looks like urban decay.
Too much radiation. We'll have to go around.
Smashed window, this patch of grass here, the difference in the ground, and your model looks like she's about to say, are we done yet? Like, she does not look like she actually wants to be there. And I mean, who can blame her, really? This is like the most budget Fast and Furious scene I've ever seen in my life. There's some good and some bad to this photo I want to dive into. So let's start with the good. Killer roller shot, really low angle. I like that it's shot landscape. That's nice for a fucking change. You've really captured the speed, 1/25 of a second I see it shot at, which is a really nice shutter speed for rolling shots. You really don't actually need to go that fast to get that sense of speed. That lower angle really just makes this car look like it's on the hunt. I do feel like the green hills really clash with the location, especially we've got this sort of cobblestone wall here and sort of takes away from the aggression of the picture. I do like a rolling shot where it's angled slightly as well. Before we get into any selective adjustments, let's just see what we can even do with our colors here. Can we make it believable enough that it looks like it's part of the wall is what I'm trying to go for here. Touch of clarity and texture. Select our subject, invert it, and let's get rid of everything that isn't the road. Bring our exposure down a bit for the road and a bit more clarity. And I'm gonna take a bit of saturation out of the road as well. Get our focus onto the car a bit more. So I'm gonna try linear gradient and see, is there any details we can bring back with the sky? It's too overpowering on this side. Oh, fuck, this is difficult. Okay, we'll come back to the sky. Let's give this photo some shadows. So I'm gonna bring a bit of fade, crush the blacks a little bit, bring down my shadows, mute the highlights a little bit, and bring up my midtones to help give it that pop. Maybe a hint of dark yellow, hint of dark green. A small little adjustment I like to make in the color grading is bringing up our luminance of our midtones and highlights. I think that helps give a little bit of pop to your photo. Wow, that does a pretty good job of selecting the sky. I'm just trying to see, is there any way we can get some detail? I don't want it affecting our subject at all. Reapply some of our radial filter with a big feather radius. Small detail as well. It's gonna take me a second to do, but I'm gonna darken the windscreen because it's too bright compared to the rest of our photo here. So bear with me 1 second. I will try it on the window here as well, but I don't think it's gonna have the same effect. Fuck, it looks so jank. Yeah, it kind of works, I guess. Wow, I did not expect this photo to get to this level, but I'm really liking where it's going. What if we actually try a radial filter at the back here? Bring the exposure down even a bit more, highlights up, keep giving it that pop. I still feel like it looks a bit HDR-ish, and we can fix that by just chucking a bit more fade and lowering our exposure a bit more. Shadows can come, oh, that's what we need. The shadows can come down a bit. Oh, I'm fucking liking this. We've got black wheels, the worst color for any wheel, but whatever. Can't convince everyone. Like, look at this. It's just a fucking black hole. Why spend all this money on wheels? Wheels are so expensive. What is the point? You may as well put steel rims on it. I am really loving how far this photo has come. I could keep editing this all day, to be honest. Before, after. Yes, it's very dark. It's very moody. It looks like the front cover for a Blacklist boss from Need for Speed. Coming from that to that, I'm super happy with it. This car looks like it's one more scratch away from becoming scrap metal. I'm not a Civic fan. What do you want me to do? I don't like him, okay? Actually, it's not even that I don't like him. The 1% of Civics that are actually clean and done right, I can respect that. But it's everyone else who modifies Civics that just lets the team down. This being a perfect example of that. And the fake cruise sticker, it's like you can already tell from a distance by reading that this car's already a shit heap before you get even close enough to see the rust. Most old Japanese cars, you want to photograph as dark as possible and as far away as possible because that's when they look the best. At night, from a distance, in a dimly lit place. At least that was with my old car. But instead, You've taken a photo of this car in the harshest lighting that is highlighting every possible dent and scratch and imperfection. The front bumper doesn't fit, the lights don't fit, the grille doesn't fit. I mean, fuck, I'm surprised this thing even can drive. I would have loved to have sat in the boardroom meeting when they were designing this car. This car just looks like it's confused about its own existence. Like it doesn't even know what it wants to be. I don't understand how someone could walk into a dealership, walk up to this car and be like, yeah, that's the one for me. I'm buying that. It's either that or the car salesman deserves a fucking Emmy. Solar panels, nice one, very futuristic, unlike the car. Actually, it works perfectly for the car. I think the location now is actually a 10 out of 10.